Noam Chomsky, speaking at Riverside Church this July, made the point that while the West worries about Wall Street's ability to grow a profit, 1 billion people around the world are dying from lack of food. Nowhere does the crisis hit harder than India, where over 200,000 farmers have committed suicide in the last decade, in part because they feel they simply can't compete. As if the pressure from agribusiness and the global economy wasn't big enough, just this month, the Indian government approved production for the first time of a genetically modified food plant. In this case, the eggplant. Devinder Sharma, the food policy analyst, is the guy who would be weighing in on this in his home country, were he there. He's the author of GATT to WTO, Seeds of Despair, and In the Famine Trap. He also writes a blog called Ground Reality, and I'm very happy to say he's our guest today on GRITtv. Devinder, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
So the first food plant, that's a very big deal. You've had BT cotton, genetically modified cotton before, now an eggplant. What does that mean for Indians?
Well, I think it's a situation which is very disappointing, because we were always trying to tell that there is no need to bring in genetically modified eggplant, because there is no crisis as far as eggplant is concerned. And also the human safety, biosafety concerns have not been addressed. They have not been addressed globally, and India is in a desperate move to push the genetically modified plants.
So when I sit down to my favorite, if I'm in India, my favorite curried vegetable, and dig in, what are the dangers to me if this eggplant has been modified genetically?
I think the first and foremost is that the gene that goes into the eggplant is, let's say, the same gene is also used for what is called as BT sprays. You have biopesticide sprays, but the concentration of the poison or the toxin within the plant or within the fruit would be 1,000 times more than what you have in the BT sprays. Now, BT sprays can kill insects, as we all know. Imagine when you eat that, BT brinjal or eggplant, what's going to happen to your body?
So we're skipping the middleman. We used to spray the plant that produced the food. The spray was problematic, but now it's the food itself.
The middleman that you talked about, let me also clarify, is not going to go away, because it's only taking care of one kind of insect, that's the shoot borer. The other kinds of insects will all be there. So whether it's let's say in the case of BT cotton, you again took care of one kind of insect and not all kinds of insects.
So the pesticide that's now genetically engineered into the food is combined with the pesticide we're still spraying on.
You're very right. Earlier we used to have chemical treadmill only. Now we'll have chemical treadmill plus biological treadmill. So we're going to have double the damage now.
How does this get allowed?
Well, because the corporate pressure, and the corporates can do anything now in the world. And I think the kind of approval that has come about in India is a classic example. And I've always been saying the way the genetically modified research and regulation is done in India, it is a classical case of a scientific fraud. And it has been happening over the last few years. And the way we manipulate research data, the way we manipulate the research outcomes, it's quite obvious that there is the only focus of the apex body called Genetic Engineering Approval Committee in India, GEAC in short, is to act as a rubber stamp for the industry.
So you've got government acting as a rubber stamp for industry. Let's back up a little bit, because industry in agriculture got almost a good name years ago in the Green Revolution, where the urgency was to have mass production of massive amounts of food for massive amounts of people. And you've written about what a difference the Green Revolution made in India.
That's right. So I think what has happened at the time of Green Revolution was there was a challenge to before us, because there was a risk that we could afford to take, because people living in hunger were huge. So the government of India, for instance, wanted to take that risk, was willing to take that risk. But after, let's say, 10 years or so, we could see the negative impact of Green Revolution. But there was a requirement for what is called as midterm correction. We should have gone back to the natural farming system to bring back the soil into fertility levels again and so on.
So before really after the bulldozer of mass production got going, you say we should have stopped for the sake of the soil? For the sake of the farmer too?
That's right, and because what happened is a natural resource base, which includes soil, the water table, and of course the environment, has got devastated now by Green Revolution. More of fertilizer, more of pesticides, and so on. Now, what has happened is when the natural resource base gets disrupted, the agriculture, which is the foundation for agriculture, the farmer is going to be suffering because of that destruction taking place. And no wonder the Indian farmer is committing suicide. The burden that we all talk about, that he's burdened with more of debt, is because of the entire equation going wrong. Because the soil has been devastated, as I said, the water table has gone down to it's like water mining happening in India, and the pesticide damage. So farmer is being squeezed out, and so ultimately he has no choice but to take the fatal route.